right off the bat, we've got some updates in regards to the Stablecoin Studio. I know that a lot of people in the ecosystem have been very interested in Stablecoin Studio just because, as we've seen with real world assets, major financial institutions, governments, and then talks of CBDCs and different things over the recent years, stablecoins are like an incredibly important part of that, especially real world asset backed stablecoins. So we've seen like Diamond Standard token backed by diamonds. We've seen, all borrowing and lending with the H liquidity, the Swiss franc. We've seen all sorts of different things. And then of course you have USDT, USDC, a bunch of other different ones, some of which actually have a portion of their supply minted natively on Hedera. So a lot of things are happening. But then when we look at what's going to be coming next for stablecoins, what other governments, institutions, companies are going to want to mint stablecoins, and then you look at the challenges around all those types of things, Hedera has done a really good job of kind of packaging all the different components that you need up into a studio for stablecoins. We went in depth on it in recent episodes, so go look it up. But the news here today is from the HBAR Foundation announcing that Eliptic, which is a bridging compliance, blockchain analysis, all that good stuff. The crypto leader in asset risk management has now integrated with the Hedera Stablecoin Studio. And this is important for a few reasons. So number one is it's risk mitigation for these types of things is important. So the stablecoin issuers on Stablecoin Studio can now use Eliptic screening and investigation tools for that risk mitigation stuff. So that stuff's important. They've got proof of reserve and compliance tools because, again, the stablecoins have to be backed by something. How do you prove that reserve exists? If you say, I've got 1,000, US dollar stablecoin, well, where is that $1,000? And can we prove that it's there? So that's important. And then, of course, that kind of screening technology. So important stuff, big stuff, and good to see the Stablecoin Studio initiatives kind of charging forward. I like to see it, especially, again, when we see the narratives of real world assets and everything kicking off. And if you're watching right now live on X, YouTube, I will be going to LinkedIn soon. I've got a lot of feedback that people want the show to be on LinkedIn, so coming soon. Leave a comment. It'll show up in the show. I can show it on screen, ask your questions, share your news. We might have some folks stopping by, which will be cool. Also, a big news item today in the form of like an ecosystem update was Hedera joining the Institute of International Finance, IIF. So this is an article from Genfinity. And if we take a look here, this is some pretty interesting stuff. So go check out this article in Genfinity. It provides a ton of details. So the key takeaways here are that if we go to, let me see if I go to IIF, it's just opening the article. Institute of International Finance, a very professional looking website, very institutional, very finance. So as you can see, they've got a bunch of different members all over the world. And if we go to, you can go on their website and you can go to, where's their membership page? They have a membership page, accept all cookies. There should be a membership page. Let me see here. There we go. So you can see like membership benefits. Look at this. So obviously some of the benefits are getting access to research, networking, getting connected up with different things. You can become a member here if you'd like to. And if we look at the full list of members, right, you've got 90 folks in the Americas, 130. So you can see it's distributed pretty well. If we go to F to J, you'll see Hedera right here, Hedera Hashgraph LLC, United States, listed amongst, Greylock Capital, Goldman Sachs. Let me see here. Fidelity, right? IBM, right? Another governing council member. Blah, blah, blah. So obviously, like JP Morgan, if we continue looking here, we've got Aberdeen, another governing council member. Right? Bank of America, all the usual suspects. So obviously a ton of global major institutional finance players, which is big. Now, one thing that was most interestingly pointed out, and again, basically the IIF is like a membership for all of these different entities. They've got events, they've got meetups, they've got all different things. And essentially the idea is it's networking, it's connecting, it's creating a situation where potentially at one of these events, you could have someone at Hedera interfacing with someone at Goldman Sachs, hypothetically. So it's not this like direct partnership or kind of like direct type thing, but it creates, opportunity, I guess. Hello. How do you pronounce your name there? George. Good morning. This was very cool though. Zepsi, Hedera legend, pointed out this most interesting fact. Hedera is the only layer 1 in the IIF, right? Alongside of the over 400 institutions that we just kind of started rattling off, including Circle and different things like that. But when it comes to actual networks, right? When it comes to actual layer 1 crypto networks, Hedera is the only one. I don't know what that says, but definitely it's a unique thing. Obviously, the community is stoked about that aspect. This is Hedera's tweet on it. But the other thing here to keep in mind is there's a few different sides to how this news is being received in the community. So the general consensus, I think, is that this is a pretty big achievement, just in the regards of Hedera's positioning in the kind of, traditional finance, enterprise, institutional space, and having them alongside these things, mixing it up with these types of people. That's kind of where Hedera wants to be for their plays. So the other aspect to this is I think a lot of people are curious about, is this just a matter of, is this a situation where Hedera is being brought into this powerful, consortium that will bear fruit and all sorts of different things for the network? Or is this just, Hedera signing up for a membership, their name happens to be on a website, and they'll go to like an event or like join a Zoom call or like whatever it might be. We don't know what capacity this is. And then the kind of the other side people are looking at this from is, while people are really celebrating this as a big initiative, some people are kind of skeptical. They're feeling that this might be a bit overhyped. Really like, is it the case that anyone in the sector could just join and pay the membership fee, right? Like if I go to the website here, and I go to, membership and become a member, is it a situation where like anyone can sign up and then you just pay the membership fee and you join? It seems to me though, in that question that there is like a vetting process and all this stuff. So that kind of is what's on people's mind is like, does this, if there is like a very thorough vetting process for new members joining, if there is a very strict criteria, then that would definitely be great for Hedera. So I think that general consensus, this is a really good thing. I think that it's fair to argue both ways. I think that stronger on the other side is that this is just something that's maybe being overhyped. We don't know. I think that in my mind, how I'm taking this is just kind of like, hey, good stuff, good to see. I don't think they're necessarily overhyping it. But again, they would be overhyping it if it's the case that they literally just signed up on a website and joined a membership and paid a fee and got on a website like that. They would definitely be overhyping it because their tweet is, they say here, Hedera says, we're joining Circle, Coinbase, BlackRock, and other leading institutions. So that's implying here the implication here is that they are joining forces in networking and cooperation and communication in a shared membership with these major institutions. So whether that's in the form of going to events, being in the same room, all those different types of things, I think that's dynamite. That's great. But again, it is overhyped if it's just signing up on a website and paying a membership fee. I don't think that's the case, but we'll have to see how it plays out. I'm kind of keeping my eye on this one. And, regardless of what the situation is, I think that, I think that this is overall pretty positive, and we will have to see. Also, we've got some news from the Metamask side. Tomb Technologies has added support for the consensus service. So the Hedera consensus service, obviously used by a lot of folks from enterprise like Avery Dennison to retail like Hashinals, right? Inscriptions. Imagine if you could interact with your Hashinals collectibles inside of MetaMask or something like that. So this is a very, very cool development on a few different fronts. So that's great to see. Keep an eye on. There's a lot of developments happening, right? We've got stuff happening in regards to Wallet Connect. We've got stuff happening in regards to MetaMask. Those are really great things on the wallet front. So good to see. I'm keeping an eye on that stuff. Also, from a retail standpoint, Hashpack with their pack token, the Backpack fam with the Hashpack back token, they've got staking coming. This video posted by Cosmic, shout out, always doing some good content in the space. They've got staking coming for pack token. So they've announced all sorts of different utilities for pack token, which is really great. And obviously on Genfinity, on the show recently, they announced staking is coming. If we do a quick little refresher on this, let me see, Hashpack. They had a post. Let me see here. Where is it? They had a post that kind of outlined. There we go. So basically we talked about this last week, but just a quick reminder, there's a post that went out from Hashpack. They were announcing and talking about all the different things coming to pack token, including these yield opportunities, which has turned out to be staking. So that's really great. I think it's awesome. George asks, skeptical of what? I imagine just referring to the last story, the IIF story. Basically just skepticism from the community. Again, if the IIF news is in fact just Hedera joining with a simple membership payment and getting put on a website, then that might be overhyped. If that's just the case. But it also could be the case that they're going to be in the room with these people. They're going to be potentially collaborating with these people, all these different types of things. So that's where a bit of skepticism from the community that I've observed has come from. I love this. Big if, all caps if. Memberships builds further partnerships. Yeah, honestly, that's how it works in the enterprise space. That's my assumption based off of what Hedera is sharing and kind of what I see from the website is that's kind of what this is. And yeah, another great point. I believe they're not just letting anyone in. I would assume so that, seeing the list of people there, it sounds like it's a pretty high bar to get in. So I don't know, overall positive from me. I don't know. Moving on here, have to also share, apparently the HBAR bull I've heard is addicted to Steamrunner from Earthlings. And basically this game is like a side quest from Earthlings. So Earthlings is like working on this, the major project they're doing, this big Earthlings.land game. And in the meantime, they've had a separate team working on Steamrunner, which is, I talked about it in the last episode or the episode before. I saw it pop up on the App Store. And this is a cool mobile game, integrates with their Steam token, all that kind of stuff. And this is kind of some action from the project, which is great to see. So pretty stoked to see that. So Earthlings, App Store, I believe it is on Android as well. Not 100% sure, but nonetheless, go check it out. Gaming on Hedera is a real thing. Let me see here. So we got Steamrunner. Oh, also from the game space, a little update from maybe a new player, Momental. Yeah, Momental. The Major League Paintball League has launched their Armory community for all sorts of like different collectibles and digital player cards. Probably similar to like Karate Combat player cards and different things. So good to see. We're continually starting to see more and more kind of sport related IPs coming to the ecosystem. So this was really, really cool to see. One thing that was funny about this announcement though is the news got picked up in Binance and it said MLB partners with Momental to launch NFT marketplace on Hedera network. I'm pretty sure they meant the Major League Paintball, MLPB, not Major League Baseball, MLB. I mean, it would be awesome if we got MLB, but this just goes to show sometimes how kind of like news stories and technology we can cross the wires pretty easily on that stuff sometimes. What else we got going on? Also, SaucerSwap just launched their governance voting stuff, on-chain governance. And we've seen the development and proliferation of on-chain voting in the Hedera ecosystem. I remember that Turtle Moon did a Bitcoin ordinals vote. We've got the Hashio DAO stuff from Swirlds Labs, aka Hashgraph, and then all sorts of different things. So this is really cool to see because more and more projects are starting to incorporate the consensus service for voting, and essentially the SaucerSwap voting system. And it's token weighted voting. The Medium article has all of the details. I encourage people to go check it out. I think they're doing an AMA as well on their Discord on Friday. Thursday 8th. No, Friday 9th. So Saturday the 10th, I believe. They're doing an AMA, which I imagine they'll provide more info on this. But basically, it's using HCS. This launched on Monday. And basically they have a process where it's like they've got request for comment processes. They've got a proposal phase, which requires, a minimum of 100K units for voting power. They've got an election phase, all these different types of things. So governance and the mechanisms for those types of things are so critical for these applications to become more and more decentralized over time, and having the voting happen on chain, making it audible, is so important as well. So this was a very, very cool update to see, and a huge shout out to the SaucerSwap team. Also, this was a pretty cool thing to kind of see unfold. Just quickly talking about HSuite really quick. They announced, I think in February, they teamed up with Skycom to create a centralized identity app for the Education Malaysia Global Services. And this was going to be using HSuite Smart Node technology stuff that we hear about very much in the Hedera ecosystem. It's kind of like a little L2. And so they announced that they were doing that. And then I believe this week, it kind of went live, and it was, let me see here. It's in one of the top spots for NFT transactions on the Hedera network. So this use case running on HSuite kind of went from an announcement of it's happening to going into production pretty quick. That's kind of cool to see. I mean, we've seen that quite a few times in the retail space as well, the level of execution. I think sometimes we see a slow level of execution from the enterprise side, especially more kind of retail focused things from the enterprise side. The level of execution from retail, like we just talked about, Hashpack with their pack token, SaucerSwap governance. We also talked about, Steamrunner from Earthlings and all these different types of things. And now HSuite, it's like you can start to see these teams as they've developed, and being so close to the bone in this ecosystem for so long, knowing it so well, the rate of execution and the speed that these startups can work at is like pretty crazy. So I really love seeing that. So shout out to HSuite and everybody on that. I want to move on now to a very, very interesting article that was published by the DLT Science Foundation. And for those unfamiliar with the DLT Science Foundation, the DLT Science Foundation is part of the kind of ecosystem of Hedera. So we've got like Hedera, and then we've got the HBAR Foundation, we've got the Hashgraph Association, we've got Swirls Labs, aka Hashgraph, we've got the DLT Science Foundation. So all these different organizations are funded out from Hedera, all those different types of things, funded by your HBAR that you're buying. Just a note. And so these organizations are doing all sorts of things, and the DLT Science Foundation has published, I think, like a really, really cool article that picks apart TVL a little bit. And a quick refresher on total value locked. Total value locked is a critical metric when it comes to measuring a network's success when we look at enterprises wanting to build in Web3. What enterprises want to see is total value locked on networks, a growth in users. Total value locked, that metric represents how much value is in the network, right? How much value has been locked in the network through DeFi, or whether it's borrowing and lending or NFTs, like whatever it might be. And so naturally, when you have so much pressure put on a metric like that, it can start to be gamed. It can start to be diluted. It can start to less represent what it's supposed to represent. And so what this article does is it kind of dives into it in a very kind of academic, scientific way. And we got a comment from Dave. Starting the show at the beginning now. Don't change the show name, but do change the music. I made the music. I'm not going to change the music. But thank you. I'll keep the show name the same. So when we look at this article from DLT Science Foundation, this is a very, very interesting article. And basically there's a few kind of key points that's discussed in it. And just a quick overview of it. I mean, it's pretty lengthy. And there's some good like visuals that kind of showcase the complexity and sometimes obfuscation that could happen when measuring TVL. And it goes kind of down further, breaking it down even more, providing some more examples, some visualizations of different types of TVL, and then also different risk profiles. And then it kind of goes into Hedera as a case study. And some of the key points outlined in this piece are the cumulative, like talking about some problems. And this is basically what this article is basically it's talking about problems with TVL. And then it's talking about an alternative that we can use to TVL, which might be a bit familiar. So the problems are like inflation through double counting. So in TVL, the cumulative value of crypto assets deposited into DeFi protocols, this is often like inflated due to double counting. And this occurs when assets are repeatedly stacked staked across multiple protocols, creating derivative tokens that are counted multiple times. So like an example they give is staking in ETH, Lido generates WST ETH, which can be further staked onto other protocols like MakerDAO, inflating the TVL. So it's essentially like counting things multiple times, which then logically you kind of go like, well, is this TVL metric I'm looking at for this network for real, or is it kind of inflated? So that's definitely a problem. And this goes into like, they talk about some other issues with TVL measurement. So basically, I'll just kind of load up the article again here, but basically, what they talk about is Many DeFi tracking websites do not consistently disclose their TVL calculation methodologies. DeFi Llama, a prominent DeFi tracking service, offers a double count toggle, right, to take care of that issue. And this is part of the problem too, is like, if you don't explain how the kind of math behind what you're displaying, sometimes different websites or different measurement tools can show different numbers, and it can create further confusion. And so this is where they really kind of start to dive into TVR and kind of what about some of these other blockchains. And so this is where they start talking about Hedera as a case study, and they talk about TVR. And we've talked about TVR on the show before too. And the first time I heard about TVR was from Scott Thiel, who was previously at DLA Piper on the governing council. Now is I believe an independent board member on Hedera. But basically Scott Thiel, in I can't remember what type of interview it was or something, but he mentioned the concept of total value represented, TVR. And this was really interesting for me because it kind of takes into account not just like DeFi crypto related things, but TVR also brings in real world assets, right? So for example, maybe you have a bunch of real estate or bourbon or whatever, artwork, whatever it might be, that's tokenized as a real world asset on a network like Hedera. What that kind of gets you thinking is like, how do we account for that when displaying the total value of a network? And when you think about Hedera and you look at the TVL of Hedera, it's very small, right? It's pretty small. TVR could also be, maybe it's total value redeemable. Let me see here. Yeah, total value redeemable. My apologies. So that was, there's two TVRs. My brain got mixed up. So basically Scott Thiel was talking about total value represented, total value redeemable. This was actually something that I think, I can't remember who at Hedera was talking about. This was very recent. But they were talking about total value redeemable. But basically, this is representing the ultimate redeemable value of assets within a DeFi protocol or ecosystem. Apologies. Thank you, Zildjian, for highlighting that. Your notes on the episode so far have been awesome. And the total value redeemable will also account for like staked governance tokens, native tokens, non-crypto backed stable coins, right? So you think about Stablecoin Studio, you think about all those types of things. That's very fascinating. And this is kind of eliminating the effects of double counting. And so they've got empirical findings. They've got the risks. They outline all sorts of different risks, and they break into the case study of Hedera. But essentially, kind of like the conclusion of the article that was discussed here is really the need for DeFi to adopt total value redeemable as a more accurate metric to assess the actual value locked within DeFi ecosystems, eliminating the double counting. It gives a better picture, right? When you really think about it, it's like, how much actual value can you redeem from the network right now? That is a much clearer way of looking at it versus how much value, whether it's hypothetical or not, is in the network. That's why platforms like DeFi Llama have to have that little toggle, right, to take care of double counting and double spend, all these different types of things. So total value redeemable is a much clearer way of looking at it. And what it's going to take is work like this that the DLT Science Foundation is doing. And also, it's going to require DeFi platforms to really adopt it and kind of get on board with it. So that'll be a very interesting thing to see unfold. And obviously, in my mind, I can suspect that there's a lot of crypto projects out there that, probably depend on, on TVL kind of being inflated a little bit. And they would probably be reluctant to start using total value redeemable. So again, this is another one of these situations where we've got something really great. Is it going to be adopted? And I think that the work's being done. It's good to see. I think it's a pretty big development, which I really like.